Roz Kelsey is from the University of Regina. She's been instrumental in creating the Man Up Against Violence campaign over at the University of Regina, and then was the project director with the Gender Violence Prevention Project, now being named director, one of the recommendations that's come out of this study, Roz.
Yeah.
Tell me how all of the information was gathered and how this study came about.
So the project was initiated in the summer of last year, and we got started in September launching a campus-wide climate survey. And we got about 2,300 participants in that. Between that climate survey and focus groups and interviews with specific stakeholders and participants on campus, we were able to collect some information about what people know about what we're doing on campus, what kind of things are available in terms of support. We also collected data about the experiences of our students and faculty and staff when it comes to gendered violence and who's experiencing it and where they're experiencing it. And then we also did a collective asset mapping that looked at what are we doing currently on campus and how well is it coordinated. And we looked at our sexual assault policy, and we looked at the current job description and did a review on the personal safety coordinator.
So what stood out to you the most out of the findings of all of this work that you did?
Well, I think there was a couple things. We're doing a lot of really good work at the university, and I think that we need to be a little more collaborative on that. I mean, we seem to work in silos like so many other places do. So I think it's really important to be able to have some kind of coordination of all the efforts. We need to have some central support for this kind of thing. And we need to be able to have opportunities for students to come forward in ways that they are aware of, that they're comfortable with, that they direct. So we want to look at student survivor and faculty and staff survivor focused types of things like reporting, like reactions to those reports. Looking at what that means for anonymous reporting, all of those kinds of things, trying to coordinate. I think also there's a need for education. There's a need for being able to prepare people there for anyone that decides to disclose, right? I mean, what do you do if somebody comes to you with this kind of information? And sometimes it comes out when you least expect it. So we need to know what to do to support survivors of that.
Are you hearing that people are getting more comfortable in the environment of coming forward and bringing their stories and sharing that kind of information? Is it getting better?
I think we're always inching ahead, but I think that there are still some real struggles for women and for anyone, non-conforming folks, anyone that comes together, and particularly men that want to come forward with stories. There's a stigma attached to that, and it's difficult to come forward, particularly because it's a traumatic event. So anytime you have to retell a traumatic event, it's a taxing thing to do. So I think that they're hearing that they're being supported and that there's options for them, and now we just have to show them.
What's first on your task list taking on this new job as director?
I think we have to start planning. We have to start collecting all the information we can from everywhere that we can, making connections with the external community. We have so many fabulous resources in our city that are on the ground and dealing with this and are so willing to partner with us. So making relationships, being able to collaborate and support the efforts that are on campus, and really looking at how do we create an action plan going forward.
And ultimately, what would be success in your mind when that action plan comes together?
Well, I guess being able to take that action, being able to, so that's the tough one, right? Because if you're a survivor of assault and we're trying to count numbers on that, it can be really difficult to judge what's success and what's not, because the reporting is, it's so difficult to gauge. If I get a lot more reports, does that mean a lot more things are happening? Does it mean that we are, as an institution doing something right or something wrong? So they can mean different things. So we have to be very careful when we try to put numbers and metrics on things. I think when we start to hear people talking more about, like you said, being more comfortable and knowing where to go. So we had an issue with awareness about our sexual assault policy. Half of our students don't even know we have one. So we need to make that policy a document that's easily accessible and that gives some direction about options. And so I think our You Are Safe website page for the University of Regina is going to provide students with one central point where they can find all of the resources they need for whatever way they'd like to deal with this.
Thanks so much, Roz.
My pleasure.